Hello, everybody. My name's Kathy Berner. I'm the event coordinator at Blue Willow Bookshop in Houston, Texas, and I am so excited for this event. I can't begin to tell you. These are two of my favorite authors. I've read Meg Cabot forever and ever and ever, and Maureen Lenker has written great reviews about romance books, and I've seen her interview authors, and now she's written her own amazing books. We're so excited to be here tonight to celebrate uh, the newest books from Meg Cabot, Enchanted to Meet You, and Maureen Lenker, It Happened One Fight. Please join me in welcoming Meg and Maureen to the screen.
Hi, everyone.
Hi there. And let's get Meg. There's Meg.
Hi, hello.
Hey, I'm so excited to see you both. I can't wait to hear your conversation. And like I said, I'm going to turn off my screen now, and then I'll hop back in when it's time for Q&A. So I will let you guys take it away.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, Meg.
Hi, Maureen. How are you?
I'm good. I'm even better now that I'm here with you. This is surreal for me to be doing an author event with you, because I have been reading you, and your work is a large part of why I'm a writer. So it's really special.
Oh, thank you. I thought you were going to say because I have a book out now, and that's why it's surreal. We're both, I mean, you've been writing for a long time, but this is your first piece of fiction, and it's great. I was just telling you before this started how much I enjoyed It Happened One Fight. I love those kinds of movies from the old days, back when movies were good. Sorry. And it was so much fun to read. So just wanted to get that out of the way.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It just means the world. So, but I want to start by asking about your new release, Enchanted to Meet You, and start with a really silly burning question I have, which is, is the title and the purple setting because of Taylor Swift?
Not the purple. I had nothing to do with the purple. That was the amazing artist, but no, yeah, I purposefully chose that title because it's a Taylor Swift lyric. And I literally do not remember why. I was like, I need to have a Taylor Swift lyric as my title for this book. But I wanted to have some magic and also the word you in it. So I was looking for a good title, and obviously what I came up with was Enchanted to Meet You, which is great because I love Taylor. I'm a Swiftie, although I've not been to the Eras tour. I'm gonna watch it when it comes. Yeah, I know. Have you been? Did you get to go?
Yes, I went in the beginning of August, and it truly was like witnessing a piece of pop culture history. It was incredible.
I'm so mad that I haven't gone, but I'm gonna watch it when it comes to our little local theater, which is I think in a couple weeks. So it won't be the same, but it'll be still good.
Oh, it'll still be awesome. And you'll have a much better view than I did.
Yes, maybe I will. Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, it's a really great show though. And it's so good, in fact, that I'm like, how can she possibly tour again? She can't top this.
How does she have the energy? I don't know, but I'm very happy that she does. So it's
Well, I'm happy to hear that the title is because of Taylor, because that is one of my
100%.
favorite of her songs. So
Ooh,
I even wore
good.
a tinted friendship bracelet to the concert. So
That is great. I love hearing that. That's good.
And in terms of this book, you have long played in sort of the supernatural paranormal world. You've had your Mediator series, the 1-800 series was paranormal. You had your vampire and Persephone books that kind of existed in that space. When did you decide that you wanted to jump wholeheartedly into witches?
So I have a witch YA Jinx that came out years ago, and that was really fun to work on. And I don't know, I couldn't really think of something that would be. I knew I wanted to go back into paranormal, and I was like, oh, let's do some adult witches because that's fun, and they exist in a great world that's much better than our world, the real world. So that was it, and I actually had an idea. I really wanted to write about a chosen one, which is basically the plot of the book, is that this plus size witch, Jessica, finds out that she is the chosen one and she has to save her town, but kind of a chosen one with a twist, because she's not really the chosen one. She just has to train the real chosen one. I just love that trope. I think it's so much fun. And of course, I don't know about you, but I'm always like, oh, if only, a handsome stranger would come and tell me that I'm the chosen one and I have to save my town with my incredible supernatural powers, which Jessica's are not so incredible. I mean, Jessica, the character. So that's what I did. And it ended up being kind of fun, I think, and opened up this whole kind of new kind of fun town for me that I will be writing about in the future.
Absolutely. No, it's super fun. And I can't believe that I didn't think to mention Jinx, because I definitely have it.
Jinx is she's not really that Meg Cabot-y of a character, because she's kind of shy and she doesn't really stick up for herself the way certainly Sue's from The Mediator and even Princess Mia does. So I can understand. People forget her.
Well, Jessica is definitely not like that. She is sassy and funny and just trying to keep her life together.
Exactly like all of us. Yeah.
Okay.
And she is fortunate that she has her actual, in my world of witches, everybody's kind of got a specialty. And her specialty is that she can make anybody feel and look good if they're wearing some clothing from the shop that she owns, the little clothing boutique. And I always thought that was a fantastic superpower to have, because it is so hard to find clothes that you look good in. And every once in a while, I do wander into a shop where somebody has that ability and they find the perfect clothes for me. I can never do it for myself. And I certainly can do it for others.
I mean, people are always like, would you rather be invisible or fly? I'm like, magical tailoring, actually. That sounds
I want to look good in anything that's off the rack. But yeah, it just doesn't happen. No, yeah, why would you want to be invisible or fly? That's ridiculous. Of course, you want to feel good and look good at the same time.
Too true. And you, a lot of your books are set in places you have lived. You've written things set in Bloomington, Indiana. You've written in Little Bridge Island, which is very similar to Key West.
Yeah.
Of course, written a lot in New York City. So how did we end up in Connecticut?
That's so funny, because I did live in Connecticut for about a summer. That's where I got Lyme disease, because, Lyme, Connecticut, that's where it all happens. And I rented a house for a summer to write. I can't remember. I think I wrote Avalon High there. But
okay.
yeah. And so I've spent time there. I also have a bunch of friends that live in Connecticut. So I was kind of doing my witch research. And that's when I found out that Connecticut is the place where the first person in the US was executed for witchcraft, not Salem, which is what everybody thinks. 50 years earlier, it was all going down in Connecticut. And I was like, this is perfect. This is going to be great. And then while I was writing the book, a bunch of ancestors of people who were executed for witchcraft in Connecticut in the 1600s took their case to I think it was like this Connecticut Congress or something. I wish I knew more about politics, but anyway, they wanted their ancestors' names to be exonerated because it was so ridiculous that they had been executed for witchcraft. And right, I think as I turned in the book, and this is not a spoiler, but it kind of is, the Connecticut government went ahead and exonerated all of them for witchcraft, except for one guy who was a politician who was like, well, how do we know they weren't witches? We can't just go ahead and say that they're not guilty because they could be guilty. And then everyone made so much fun of him on the internet, which it was fantastic. And I was like, I'm going to put that in my next book, maybe, because it was great.
That's
but
amazing.
it could be that they really were witches, but well, they didn't need to be killed for it. Come on.
Yeah. I was gonna say, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Okay, so maybe they were, but also they should still be exonerated.
Also, you can't just kill women for their beliefs. Oh, I guess this guy thinks you can. So yeah, I'm not gonna say his name, but yeah, it was hilariously awful.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that is something that you included in the book, because I've only been to Salem once, and it made me a little uneasy how much like tchotchke witch stuff there is there, because I feel like they're making money off of the very thing that got these people killed. And it
A
really,
tragedy, yeah.
yeah, it sort of makes me very uncomfortable in a way. And so I like that you tackled that head on here.
Yeah, we certainly, obviously it's not historical, it's a contemporary, but this is something that they don't know either, because it's been lost throughout history. Salem has gotten all the press, but actually Connecticut started it. But I still love Connecticut. Don't get me wrong, I love Connecticut. I love Stu Leonard's. I love the whole shore situation with Long Island Sound. But yeah, they were the first in the US to execute people for witchcraft, and they did quite a job on it. Like when you go there, like if you go to well, Fairfield is where I spend a lot of my time, and there's not in Fairfield, but right outside you can see little landmarks, little sadly graves. It's sad. Yeah, but let's not talk about it anymore. It's too depressing. Even though it's in my book, talk about something fun. Like magical powers.
Yeah. Well, Derek, your hero, he's fun.
Yeah, somebody pointed out to me that he has some mommy issues, which I didn't think about when I was writing it, but yeah, he does. So it's all witchcraft related. Yeah. But not in a bad way.
No. And I was going to ask, you know, he rides a motorcycle. He has long blonde hair. Is he Chris Hemsworth inspired?
Oh, I didn't think of that. Let's say, yeah, of course. He sure is. Yeah, that works. Why not? Yeah. That would work. With the kind of Thor, I do think that Thor, when he's got his big beard and he's kind of eaten too much, that's my favorite Thor. So you can think of him that way, or you know, as the other Thor. Either one.
They both work.
Yeah, totally. That's great. Yeah.
And Jessica's cat is named Pie. Is that a reference to Bell Book and Candle? And
oh my God, you are the only person who's gotten that so far. Yes, Pie Wacket from the great Bell Book and Candle, which is a play, but also a really great old movie. Of course, you would know that. I forgot, because you know everything about old movies and old Hollywood, and starring Kim Novak and Jimmy Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a witch who casts a spell on him to make him fall in love, which is very wrong because she didn't get consent, as we explore thoroughly in Enchanted to Meet You. Yeah, that's totally where I got that name.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That it's a great movie. If anybody's looking for a fun spooky season movie, that is definitely more spooky than scary.
Oh yeah.
He's the Pie Wacket's one of my favorite movie cats, I think. So.
Oh my God, that cat is in the movie so much and does so many amazing tricks and I heard that Kim Novak adopted the cat that played Pie Wacket after the movie. I hope that's true.
I bet it is. That checks out. I know she's a big animal.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah.
She lives on a farm now, so.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's good. So you know all the movie lore, and it's because why do you know so much about movies that you were able to write an entire book set in the 1930s in Hollywood, with movie stars as the main characters, which is a fantastic book. But how did your love for movies become so pointed?
Well, it's mostly because of having strict parents, because I was not allowed to watch PG-13 movies till I was 13 and R until I was 17, which, you know, greatly reduces the number of options available to you. And especially as you get a little older and you want to expand beyond great Disney animated films and things of that nature, there's a catalog of movies that are not rated. And those are classic films. So from about the age of 11, I became a Turner Classic Movies addict and got really into classic film. And then I was also a film major in college, and I was
okay.
Yeah. So, and I was a critical studies major, which meant I did a lot of history and analysis of film versus a lot of production based learning. So yeah, I mean, I've just been immersed in it for a really long time, and now I'm an entertainment journalist, and I obviously predominantly cover new things that are happening, but I do like whenever I can to sort of dig into Hollywood's past if the opportunity presents itself, because it's my favorite era. There's just something so glamorous and fun about it. But also, and this is something I really wanted to do with It Happened One Fight, not just the glamour, which is like wonderful and sexy and enchanting, but they really, they were human beings just as much as we are now. And some of the things they got up to were just as complex and wild as celebrities now. And I think because of the production code, people don't necessarily think that's true. They think it's this like very sanitized world. And so with a romance novel, I get to sort of have my cake and eat it too, because I get to have the like screwball comedy vibes of a film of that era, but then it doesn't have to be closed door. They can swear, all of those.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's what's so great about your book too, is it also gives you a glimpse into what's going on behind the scenes, behind those great old Hollywood movies where the studio is totally controlling their lives. And there's these terrible reporters who are constantly gossiping about them. And that I really appreciated that. And I did kind of wonder, like, and also I do think some of those old black and white movies are just as dirty as the movies we have today, but I think it kind of goes over people's heads because the dialogue, much like your dialogue, was so snappy and pointed, but you don't always, maybe today's audiences don't really know what they're talking about so much.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, it's very common parlance to say, in those comedies, they couldn't show sex on screen, so the dialogue is sex. Like that's the
100%, yeah,
electric exchange between these two characters who are falling in love with each other. And that's a big part of why I love them. Like there is such a crackling energy that comes off the screen, particularly when you have two actors who have really great chemistry.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a sign of some great writing too, which totally understandable why that would appeal to you as a writer and a moviegoer.
I mean, I will say, sort of when I first started writing this book, the thing that was the most intimidating to me was how good that dialogue is, and how many famous lines people still
right,
and feeling like how am I going to even come anywhere close to that in writing dialogue, this dialogue so clever and fun and zippy. So that was definitely intimidating when I first started this project, and had to rewatch a lot of those to sort of get the
you had to.
Yeah, exactly. It was so trying.
Well, you did a great job, so I wouldn't have ever thought that you had any concerns about that, because dialogue is extremely snappy and fun. And of course, I'm picturing the movie in my head that hopefully I will get to see someday, because a movie of people making a movie is totally tantalizing to those of us who love movies.
Absolutely. And I just think that era is so fun to see on screen, because it is glitzy and glamorous and sexy and
but like you said, it seems that way, but then there's stuff going on behind the scenes that it's just like today.
Yeah, absolutely. And also just, I mean, a large part of the book takes place in Reno, because my movie stars have to go to Reno for divorce. And I learned a lot about the Reno divorce culture as I was writing this. And, that's not really something that exists anymore, because people just get file divorce paperwork where they live. And it's such a wild facet of American history.
Oh my God. Have you been okay, this is terrible, but have you been following the Joe Jonas and Sophie?
Of course.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of your book, because each person is putting out this different press releases. And I just can't, I'm obsessed. I can't stop. It's terrible, but I can't stop reading it.
No, it is really a study in sort of PR and how all of that works, because you can definitely see like Joe trying to get ahead of whatever is happening by trying to villainize Sophie.
Yeah.
And the large impression I get is that she was 24 years old and ended up locked inside with 2 babies, and now she wants to live a little.
Yeah, I think there's a little misogynistic quality to a lot of what's going on, that people don't appreciate how young she was. And going back to Taylor Swift, I did have to listen to Mr. Perfectly Fine from when Taylor, I believe that's when she and Joe Jonas broke up. So that was very helpful. And we're all hoping that Sophie's sitting there listening to it round the clock.
Yes, there's a Taylor song for everything. I mean, I always say my book is Wildest Dreams because I feel like it had, I mean, the music video very famously sort of has a golden age Hollywood vibe, but even just the lyrics of like this short-lived affair, and will it last or have an impact beyond that? So
nice. Oh, I love that. There's a Taylor Swift song for everything. True.
Really.
Aw, that's great. Oh, so what's your favorite? Is Bell Book and Candle your favorite witch movie?
Oh man, that is tricky, actually. No, I think actually my favorite witch movie, I really like Practical Magic. I mean,
I knew you were going to say that. I knew it. Okay, go on. But what is it?
But I also love I Married a Witch, which is Veronica Lake and Frederick March.
Yeah.
And she is a witch in Salem, who in the modern day, which I think is either the late 30s or early 40s, I'm blanking on the year, sort of resumes a corporeal form. She's been locked in a tree for centuries. And she comes to torture Frederick March's character, whose ancestors like burned her at the stake or whatever they did to kill her. And she wants to she tries to cast a love spell on him, and she ends up falling in love with him.
Oh, never seen that one. I need to see it.
It's a really
that's great.
It's really fun, and it's super quick. It's like less than 90 minutes. It's very fast watch.
That's good. Yeah, we need more of that in our lives. That's fantastic. I think that Enchanted was more inspired maybe by a little bit of The Craft, but mostly Charmed. The original from the WB, which is not a movie.
Yeah. But I definitely got Practical Magic vibes from it too, in terms of like Dina and Jessica have very sort of sisterhood vibes, and the ways in which they don't necessarily appreciate the ramifications of their magic at first.
Right. But they're teenagers. As I keep saying, they were teenagers when that stuff went down, and they didn't they weren't thinking as far as the teenagers in what was the early 2000s. They weren't thinking so much that maybe the guy should have some consent over what's happening. But now teenagers today and adults are like, no, love spells, you cannot do that. You can't take away somebody's agency. And they pay. I mean, somebody just wrote, poor Billy. Billy, yes, is the ex-boyfriend, who's a perfectly nice guy. He doesn't really do anything bad to Jessica, but they're not made for each other. So yeah.
Are we I presume this is the first in a new series, so are we gonna learn more about Billy and his
I hope so. I haven't written the next book. I'm writing the next book now, so we'll see. I hadn't thought about Billy. I mean, Rosalie's definitely already in it, but yeah, poor Billy needs to make a reappearance. I felt like I left him okay in the book, that he is just completely clueless that witches exist, and that he might be married to one, and that he used to date one before that. But and I feel like that a lot of guys are, not to say anything bad about guys, please, but sometimes they don't really know their partner as well as the women kind of know.
There's definitely a obliviousness.
Yeah, I think so. But he's certainly a nice guy, which is, to have a nice ex in a book is a kind of, it's new for me, because usually all the exes they are murderers or they've done all sorts of horrible things. So it was kind of refreshing to have a guy who's just clueless and loves football and his kids and his wife. So that was probably more realistic. I think when you're writing something as fantastic as, you know, a Hollywood couple, or witches, you kind of do have to ground it in reality.
Hmm.
In every other aspect, because otherwise it just doesn't. And that's, I think, why practical magic is so popular, because it is grounded for the most part in reality, because that's a romance too.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's interesting, a lot of supernatural stories, it clearly, if you're writing about witches, you can do whatever you want, because you make up the magical rules of your world. But there do seem to be, and taken from history, like certain things that pop up again and again, or a part of the lore. So how did you decide the sort of rules or structure of your magical world?
I was really fascinated by everything when I first started writing the book, everything that was going on Witch Talk. There was actually a big Witch Talk war between the young new witches and the old, more established witches. And the young witches were accusing the older witches of gatekeeping. And the older witches were like, but you guys haven't even learned the rules. So why are you going around and doing these spells? And it was fascinating to me. And I wanted to write about that also because I found out through my aunt and ancestry that I have some witch relatives. None of them got executed, and it's all just family lore. I don't know that any of it's true, but some of the things that they did, like, oh, your grandmother or great grandmother cured warts off your dad's hands with a cloth. And when I started researching it, I found out there's actually like old manuscripts from the 1500s where they had like, this is how you get a man to fall in love with you, and this is how you cure people of warts. And they were all kind of rooted in herbs and flowers and things like that, just like the witchcraft that's being practiced today. So that was really interesting, and that's how I started each chapter, with a little snippet from an old book that Jessica finds, that's written by a Puritan woman from Connecticut, but it's incorporating old European kind of lore on how to make yourself rich by planting marigolds outside your house because they attract gold, and so you will become prosperous. That I love that stuff. It's hilarious.
I mean, it's worth a shot.
Oh my God, 100%. I'm drinking Earl Grey tea now because of the whole thing. And with the Earl Grey tea, if you drink it, you will become, wealthy in happiness and gold, because that's, I guess the bergamot is an orange that grows in a very fancy part of Italy. That was like the only place where that grows, and only the aristocrats had access to it.
I really loved that part of the book because I'm a huge tea drinker, and Earl Grey is my favorite. But I'm a big fan of Earl Grey lavender because I like the calming effect of the
yes. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I have to try that. I haven't tried it. Somebody was saying that it tasted horrible, and there was even research about that, which is that the aristocrats used to have really stinky water from their water source because it was like the 1500s, and they actually brewed the Earl Grey tea to disguise the nasty taste of the water. So it has to be super strong taste.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely know people who don't like it because they think it's cloying and floral, but I really enjoy it personally.
Yeah, same here.
I'm glad that there's some witchy benefits to it.
Yeah, total health benefits too. It's got lots of antioxidants. So everybody drink your Earl Grey tea. You will have massive good fortune and happiness, allegedly. You have to do it first thing in the morning, according to what I read. Yeah, it's funny. Wow. Oh, hi.
Hello. Okay, Maureen, have you ever had a London fog latte?
I have. I take milk in my tea, which I really like, but it's almost too sweet. Like I
do like a half sweet.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of I really like black tea, and I really like a floral palette, but I like to taste the tea more than sugar. Like I never put sugar in my tea.
So Meg, a lavender or a London fog is like Earl Grey tea with sweetened milk and lavender.
Oh, okay. Wow. Thank you. I love it when I get to learn something.
There you go. I mean, it is super tasty. And I love this conversation. we have so many questions.
Oh, my God.
So we are going to move to some of those, and I'm going to try, even though some are addressed to one or the other of you, I'm going to try to address them to you both. And I will say, I'll recommend who goes first so you don't accidentally talk over each other or sit in silence waiting for the other one to go. But this one is for Meg, for JJ. I've noticed you have used names of characters more than once, like Jennifer Mastriani and Jessica Mastriani and Jessica Gold, and Heather Wells and Heather from one of the missing books. Does this confuse you or remind you of those other characters when you're writing?
That's so funny because it's not the first person to ask us. No, it doesn't confuse me at all. I forgot that there was another Jessica. And what I do, it's hard to name your characters. Maureen, you know this. It's really hard to name characters. And especially when you're writing historical, when I'm writing contemporary, I know that my characters are of a certain age. So I go to the Social Security website where they have lists of all the baby names by decade. And then I just look at what were the most popular names for that decade. And generally I pick, because you don't want to name your character after anybody that you know, because then they'll think you're writing about them. And then I try to avoid using names that I've used in the past, but sometimes I forget. And Jessica is a very popular name.
I think when you're also by with books like this and
Yeah,
more than
it's hard.
that is series, you're forgiven.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
So that's the only reason. And I definitely do not ever get confused. Although I do sometimes forget what people look like, and then I have to go back and be like, what color were in size again?
Oh man. I mean, my hero in book 2, his name starts with the same letter. It also starts with a D. And even that, I'm like, oh my gosh, are people gonna be confused?
Oh yeah. So there you go. This is something to think about.
Yeah.
It comes up. And definitely people will come up to you and ask you if you named your character. If you don't know anyone named Dash, I'm sure. But if you did, Dash would think that you had a crush on him. And that's why you named your hero after him.
No, I don't know anyone named that. It's sort of because of Dashiell Hammett. I've always really liked that name.
It's a great name.
So good. So good.
Yeah.
Meg, this is from Matthew. Have you always been a huge Taylor Swift fan, and what is your favorite era?
Hi, Matthew. Yes, I mean, I've been a fan of hers since she was just a tiny little thing. And I don't know, like everybody has their own favorite era, and I really don't. I like it all. So it's a boring answer, but it's the truth.
How about you, Maureen?
Yes. I mean, I vividly remember that it's clearly dating myself to a very specific time and place, but when I was in college, I had an alarm clock that was a CD player in the top, and you picked which track on your CD was for your alarm. And I had Taylor's first CD and would listen to it in my dorm room on my alarm clock boombox.
Great.
So yeah, been a Swiftie from the beginning. And definitely 1989 is my favorite era.
Oh, I didn't want to say it because I'm like, I don't know, it's out there, but I love it so much. Everybody loves that one.
Yeah, it's just there's no skips. It's a great album, and I was also born in 1989, so I'm biased.
Oh my God.
Okay, there we go. All
Graduated
right.
from college in 1989.
I don't even want to talk about it, but it's okay. We've all aged wonderfully.
We have. We all look great.
Yeah.
For both of you, Maureen, you've just alluded to it by talking about the new male protagonist's name begin with D, and Meg, you've said you're working on the book 2. So Meg, can you tell us do you know how many books are going to be in the Witches of West Harbor series? And Maureen, can you tell us about the next historical amazing romance?
Oh yeah, I want to hear about that. I don't know how many. There's gonna be one because it's due. I have a contract for it, and that's all I know. And I can tell you that it starts the day that Enchanted to Meet You ends. So, or the next day.
Fun.
So yeah. So it's completely, literally is a sequel, but kind of focuses on different main characters. All right, Maureen, let's hear about this second book.
Hi, sorry, I keep muting myself because of Labor Day, there's never generally recycling or trash pickup right now, but now it's happening and it's quite loud. Anyway, so yes, so book 2, which is going to come out next summer, is it's still set in the same world of Evett Studios and 1930s Hollywood. It picks up a few months after It Happened One Fight, and it is following Arlene, who is Joan's assistant in the first book.
That's good. Okay.
Finally getting her chance to fulfill her dream of directing a film. Except for the fact that her leading man is going to be the toast of Broadway, who's coming to Hollywood to make his first film. But he also happens to be the boy next door that she grew up with, that she's been in love with her entire life.
Oh, that sounds so good. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah.
And what's it called?
It is called His Girl Hollywood.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's great. That is so good.
Yeah, I'm contracted for 3, so there'll be a third after that, and I have an idea for a 4th. So everybody buy the book so that I can write a 4th one.
Everybody buy Maureen's book so we can get more.
Exactly. I love them. They're so clever. And one of the things that you both do so well is banter. I mean, Meg, yours tends to be more modern day, but more like if there's banter in a book, that is catnip to me. I cannot put it down.
I love writing it. Like it's funny. Like I was saying to Meg, I really went in being very intimidated by dialogue. I've always someone who's considered myself maybe better at descriptions than dialogue, but now I'm all about the dialogue, and I try to make myself laugh when I write it, which I guess is weird, but
no,
No.
because it makes us laugh when we read it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you do a great job. So I can't even believe that dialogue was ever an issue for you, or that you thought it was, because you do it very well. It's
Agree.
really good.
Yeah.
Agree. This is for both of you. Do you have any advice for new writers who are looking to get their work published?
I think that Maureen should handle this one, because it's been so long since I first started out. Like, they didn't even have email when I first started. I mean, they may have had it, but I certainly didn't have access to it. And you actually sent out physical letters every day, not thousands, but a lot. And I think it's pretty different now. So go ahead, Maureen. How did you do it?
No problem. I will start by saying, though, that I mean, this is my first book. I'm 33. And when I was 14, I started religiously reading the FAQs on your website, Meg, of how to get published.
Oh my God.
They were not helpful to you, I'm sure, at all, because they're so out of date now. Oh my God. I think I have to update that. I haven't even thought about it. Wow.
But yeah, I would say, everyone says this, but write the story that excites you most. And don't get ahead of yourself. Don't query before something is ready.
Oh, yeah.
Really take the time to write multiple drafts, to have people you trust read it and give you feedback, because you want to set yourself up for success. And if it's not as good as you possibly think you can get it on your own, then you shouldn't be querying, because you want the agent to immediately see the potential in it. And you don't want it to be a situation where if you just spent another 4 to 6 months on it, they would have said yes, but it's still too rough around the edges. And there are, of course, agents who can sort of see that diamond in the rough, but you don't want to rely on that being the case. So I would say that, and also definitely have a plan in place to distract yourself once you are querying, because it takes a really long time for agents to get back to you. They receive thousands of submissions a day, and they're not like disrespecting you or disinterested by not immediately responding to you. So have the next idea lined up, A, because it'll give you something to distract yourself with, and B, because then when the agent reaches out to you and you talk to each other to see if you're a good fit, and they ask you, are you working on anything else, you have an answer.
Yeah. Oh, that's such good advice. And I'm glad that it still applies. My first book that I sent around was a historical romance that was set in medieval times, and nobody wanted to publish medieval romances during whatever period this was. But they did say, you know, we like your writing. Do you have anything Victorian? Because we are really publishing a lot of Victorian. And I did have a Victorian romance that I had worked on to distract myself from the pain of not getting my medieval manuscript published. So that is really good advice. Be working on something else, because then they took that Victorian romance and published it. So yeah,
Meg, isn't
good
that
advice.
medieval romance what became Ransom My Heart?
Yes, very good. It did. I finally got to take it out and dust it off and got it published under the name of Mia Thermopolis, though, not my own name. That's okay though. I'll take it.
There you go. I mean, that's other great advice too, is like, don't assume something will live in a drawer forever. Like,
Right.
This is a marathon, not a sprint. And working on any writing project is growth and is not time wasted, and you never know when it will come back
You're
around.
so good at this. I love it.
And I'm sorry, the fact that she was able to pull out that deep cut. Maureen, you're a star.
I know, good job.
I'm a Meg Cabot fangirl. What can I say?
This is
that
so cool.
color.
This is so cool.
Funny.
I'm going to try to do a couple kind of quickly. Just one, a couple people have written in, Meg, saying thank you so much for writing plus size characters. They really appreciate the representation. As do I. Here's one from Bianca for both of you. Both of your books pay careful attention to clothes in different ways. How did you go about designing your fictional looks?
Oh my God. I can tell you that I agonize over this because I am so unstylish and it's really hard. And I'm always worried when I'm dressing one of my characters that they're just not going to look cool. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Maureen. Yeah.
Well, I am personally obsessed with vintage fashion and love to wear all things vintage inspired. And so and love the costumes and the clothes of films of that era. So I really just went straight to the source and took a lot of almost every look and article of clothing in It Happened One Fight is drawn from a photograph of a real person of the era that and then I just described what I saw in that photo, or I changed the color or did something a little different to make it fit the character and make it more of their own. But it really is drawn from a lot of things that women, particularly Joan Crawford, wore in the era. And I didn't necessarily, like, I took a dress that Joan wore in some random photo shoot and made that my Joan's Oscar dress. So it wasn't necessarily a one-to-one.
Okay.
I love that. I love that so much. This is for both of you from Lauren. I love this question. In writing romance, are there any typical moments that you really love to write? Like the meet cute, the first kiss, the fight, the conflict?
Gosh. I mean, I think I really love the banter. So I love writing dialogue, and anytime that they're kind of sparring, and that's to me, that's the best. I would say that the worst is the sex scenes. I mean, it's hard. It's embarrassing. You know that like your mother's gonna read it, and so yeah, that is not my favorite part. So I like it when they're. I mean, I would prefer to maybe live in a 1930s movie where they're just being sexy talking. You don't have to write about what the physical stuff that's going on, but you got to do it. And once you get into it, it's more fun. What about you?
Mine's definitely also the banter and the sparring. It's just like once you find that flow of the back and forth, it's so fun to really have them lay into each other in that way. So yeah, I really like writing that. And I think also I actually do really enjoy writing the sex scenes.
Oh, Maureen, good for you. Go on.
But it increasingly is harder to keep that voice. I've definitely gotten some interesting family reactions.
Oh my!
I know.
Like for everyone here can write this down, but chapter 18 is my like main spicy chapter, and like chapter 18 has become a punchline in my family.
No. Oh my God! Did they ask you if you and your boyfriend practiced those?
No, thankfully
that will come.
No,
Somebody's gonna ask you.
But like we had an event in San Francisco, which is where my sister and her fiance and his family lives. And his brothers were lovely and came to the event. And I said something about chapter 18 at the event. And then in the back row of the event, you can see them like, I'm just like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Yes. My first.
Although I will say my grandmother told me it was her favorite chapter.
Oh,
So
that's so. Grandmothers are always super supportive of sex scenes. I don't know what's
That's
going on. Mine was
amazing.
the same way. They're into it. It's great. Good job. Love it.
Yes. I love that so much. Matthew recommends the amazing animated show The Owl House, about a human who finds herself in a world of witches and demons and learns the power of witch magic. So,
Oh, good. Okay.
Owl House.
We have something to watch tonight.
There you go. Matthew also very kindly says, how important is it to support independent bookstores? Thank you, Matthew. I did not pay him for that question.
Well, it's important, right? I think it's really important.
Well, it is. And I mean, you know, you've got a great indie store in Key West.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, there's plenty in Los Angeles too.
Yeah.
there are, I mean, family, friends, whoever, they'd always be like, oh, where's the best place for me to buy your book? Like, are you know, do you get more money if I buy it somewhere versus somewhere else? Which no. But I'm always like, please do anything in your power to not buy this book from Amazon. Please buy it from a bookstore. I don't care if you have to pay for shipping, please, for me. Do it. Yeah. And I had my launch event at the Rip Bodice, which I know we did a virtual event there, which is great. So I love them. And I love that bookstores more and more are becoming like destinations when people travel. That's always been something that I have done. But I love that. I feel like I'm seeing a lot more of that now around because of Instagram. Like people actually want to go to bookstores as like, I'm going to go to this museum and this bookstore. And I love that.
No, and I think that's great and actually true. And I didn't, until you said that, I didn't realize it. But yeah, all the tourists who come, not all of them, but most of them who come to Key West go to Books and Books independent bookstore. So yeah, you went.
And if you're lucky, Judy Bloom is shelving books and will be lovely.
There. She's there all the time. And I mean, it's amazing for a woman who is, you know, in her 80s. She is on fire down there, stacking the books, dusting the books, ready to help you and not tell you who she is. So you have to
no, I was like, we've done an event with you. I know who you are. It was so great.
Yeah. It's so fun.
They're just both champions. But Matthew, thank you for that as well. We are nearing the end of our time. I'm so grateful to both of you for your work. Meg, for the 9 billion books you've written and provide us with so much joy. And Maureen, for this one, as well as your quarterly hot stuff column for Entertainment Weekly, which I read with great devotion, because I always want to see what you have to say about new romance books. So thank you for doing that. Everybody who has tuned in, we will send you a list of all the recommendations and the conversation, as well as a link to our YouTube channel where this will be posted once Caroline edits it. But we're going to wrap with one final question from me. At the bookstore, if you ever come in and see us, we'll be happy to answer this question for you too. What's a book of your heart? Just a book that you love that means something to you. It can be something you read as a child. It can be something you read last week. It can be something you read with your family. Meg, how about you?
Yeah. So for me, the book that got me into witches, I mean, besides Sabrina the Teenage Witch comic books, which I loved, was a series of books by an author called Ruth Chu. And the first one that I read was called What the Witch Left. And it's about 2 little girls who find a trunk that their aunt left behind. And oh my God, the stuff they find in that trunk. It made me so envious, and I really wanted a witch aunt, which I didn't get, but those are great books. And they're totally young, so there's no sex. They're just, they're elementary school, but they're fantastic books.
Yeah. And probably can see this coming from a mile away based on earlier convo, but mine would be The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, because I read the first book when I was 11 or 12 and immediately made my mom take me to Barnes and Noble to get the next one. I remember I first started reading it in the fall, and we're longtime USC season football ticket holders. And growing up, I used to just read in the stands, and I think I read all of the Princess Diaries at various USC football games. I've been following Meg and her blog for forever. She definitely answered some like very teenage angst advice questions that I sent to her when she used to do that. I tried to get a guy via secret admirer notes in 8th grade the same way Princess Mia does in Princess Love. Works much better on the page, would not recommend. And lastly, like, I just think Meg, you're so prolific, but what I admire so much about your work is your voice and how distinctive and unapologetic it is. And you were the first contemporary author I read that I felt like sounded like me and my friends, and the way that young women spoke and lived and interacted in the world. And like all of the fiction that I wrote in middle school and high school, it was literally just me trying to copy you.
Oh, thank you. That is so sweet. And I would love to read that.
I'll have to find it. My best friend and I used to do kind of our own, not epistolary fiction, but we used to try to co-write things and email each other.
Oh my God, I bet that was hilarious to read now. That would be so fun. Yeah, but thank you. That's so sweet.
You're welcome.
This just makes me so happy to have been able to be in community with you two and everyone in the audience. Thank you so much for being here. If you live in Houston, come see us. And if you're ever in Houston, make us a destination, because we're awfully cute. And, you know, we look forward to seeing everybody at some point. And Meg, I can't wait to welcome you back to Houston sometime. And Maureen, get yourself here. We will have a great time.
I would love to come down.
It would be so much fun. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you everyone for joining us.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.